Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the WIZONE webinar. This is a series of discussions that help us take strategy and put it into some actionable sort of activities that can actually help you boost your audience relationship and ensure that your newsroom is on a path to success. It's my pleasure to welcome a couple of really good speakers this afternoon. The first one of which whom I don't seem to see online. So I'm going to skip the first speaker, Justin, and I'm going to move on to Vincent. Vincent Boucher is the Strategic Partnership Executive at Marfeel. Marfeel helps publishers grow audience and revenue through AI-driven insights and optimization tools. Vincent, I'll invite you to make your presentation and then come to some questions afterwards.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Cherilyn. So I'm going to share my screen. I think this is the screen to share, and I'm going to present it. Okay. Up. You confirm that you can see, right?
Yeah, all good.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you so much, Cherilyn, and everyone. Actually, it's great that you can join this webinar today. It's a real pleasure to have been invited by WAN-IFRA to share some stories and some things that worth sharing for the industry. And I want to tell today a story about a publisher of ours that is using data and well-integrated AI to create more engaging stories, actually. So I'm Vincent, as you said, Cherilyn, and we have 15 minutes together. So yeah, stay with me. First thing is maybe to introduce you to what Marfeel has become over the last 15 years that we've been working with publisher. Marfeel is today basically a one-stop shop for publishers that transform data into clear and actionable insights to boost not only content performance, but also grow audiences and drive revenue. So you have here some few numbers to understand a little bit the scale that we have. Our different modules cover lots and lots of things. Basically, they cover all the key areas of a media business. Everything is built to deliver a holistic experience, and basically, as an individual, as a user of the platform, you get access to exactly what you need, no more, no less. Here's a few logos. Marfeel works today with more than 400 media groups around the world, representing probably a bit more than 5,000 brands. And today, the idea is really to present you a real case study. Okay, I'm not a CEO unlike my fellow speakers today, but I am what we could call the voice of the market at Marfeel, at one of them at least. Okay. I've been in very close contact with publishers for the past 6-7 years, engaging in hundreds and hundreds of conversations, and you'd be surprised, but there's often this need from the publisher to really have an answer to that specific question. It's like, that's great, Vincent, but what can I really concretely expect from a tool like Marfeel? And the story actually began with a phone call I had with Christine Wellesley, that works at MediaNews Group. So for the ones that are not familiar with MediaNews Group, this is a leader in local news in the US. They have around 100 brands. They are still growing very fast, and they're committed to informing, inspiring, and engaging readers with very qualitative journalism. Okay, Christine came to me with, she shared with me lots of challenges that they have, and basically she told me that they are facing stuff regarding they want to publish faster and sooner. They want to increase the loyalty of their audience because they are challenged every day with new ways of accessing the news. They don't feel they can keep as much control they would like to on algorithms such as Google Search, Google Discover, or also social media. So for that, we brought different solutions, and this is exactly what I'm going to share today. So what did we do together? Okay, So first, we actually implemented a real data culture within the newsroom. Okay, it was important for MediaNews Group to really empower their editors. And not only did we do that, but we also trained them to identify basically the next best action they could take on every single article. Basically, the importance was to reduce the lag between the information, the data, and the action. So really an objective of newsroom and empowerment, okay? So here's a screenshot of one of their dashboard. This is actually a real-time view that I took a few days ago. This is basically open all day long, okay? Maybe here in this screenshot, you can see some tags, some are green, some are also purples. Basically, that helps them identify what is the, what are these articles, what is the next best action they can take. You can see the fifth one here is actually an article where I can see it's a potential converter. So that means there are signals saying that this article is very good for conversion, and I can see it's not behind a paywall yet, unlike the second article with the little padlock. So here I can definitely understand that there's some actions to take, and this is what we did with them. So now with such a dashboard, they can really seize opportunities in real time, make sure the actions will have the desired impact, okay? So there's lots and lots of things in this view. They are able to manage their syndicated content strategy because they have lots and lots of brands, identify, the top of the funnel article champions to really republish them on other brands. And this is really very convenient for them. And they told us that actually this kind of view is the only way for them to really have visibility on what they need. Marfeel also enables editors to dive into an article and work on the next best action in its life cycle. So should it be distribution maximization on social media, content update, publishing, a follow-up story, or something like that. And this is really what you can see on screen. When you dive into an article, you have like this part called Marfeel Copilot. So Marfeel Copilot is actually, our AI companion within the platform. Actually, Marfeel integrated AI very, very early in the platform so that editors could access suggestions and recommendations based on their own data, taking into consideration lots of data coming from Marfeel, coming from no-code integrations, API, things that work, things that do not work, and all that basically are empowering editors prior publication or after to really come up with the right story, okay? So for instance, they are able to craft sharp headlines, to polish the grammar, to integrate the right related stories in the links. So there's lots and lots of use cases they can use. The good thing is that they can access that wherever they want. They can access this kind of technology and AI powered suggestions on the analytics platform itself or on their CMS, on their spreadsheet. So it's very convenient for them to use this kind of technology. I have to say that MediaNews Group is a big, big fan of prompts such as follow-up stories ideas, expansions ideas, because it enables them really to make sure they are covering the topic really well enough to really have the engagement of their audience, okay? Obviously, this had a big impact on story depth, okay? First thing is that their stories are more optimized for search engines and Google Discover, thanks to SEO prompt. Their articles are getting more clicks on homepages, thanks to A/B tests, integrating AI suggestions. They are also, their articles, I said it earlier, but they resonate better with their audience. And the expansions ideas are used really to check if there might be a missing point on the story, by using a prompt that says, hey, what kind of questions a reader can have in mind after reading this article, it really helps them create the best story possible. And finally, the follow-up stories are published faster and sooner. They're on top of things. They can create live blogs and things like that. And basically, they are really able to really make an impact with their stories. So what about the result? Okay, what kind of impact are we really looking at here? Basically, before moving on to the next slide, I need to tell you that for MediaNews Group, there's a really big metric that they're following up is basically the RFV. So I'm sure that most of you already knows what RFV stands for, recency, frequency, and volume. This is basically a KPI that measures the level of engagement of your audience. And we started to work with MediaNews Group, I think it was like a year ago. And since December last year, so I really tried to look at the big picture when all the brands actually joined Marfeel and all the implementation was done with the onboarding. It's a plus 63% in terms of RFV. Okay, so that means, and we're speaking about monthly average RFV here. So what they're doing, this data culture and this well-integrated AI workflow works really well. So when we looked at that with Christine, basically I wanted to ask her, okay, Christine, wow, that's very impressive. But now what? What's next for you? And I think that what is next is actually probably their next move will focus on Marfeel monitoring, okay, to make sure that they're not losing on any opportunity, or and they really want to bring the right news to their audience and community at the right time. And indeed, Marfeel monitoring would give them this visibility on not only the most trending stories on social media, but also on Google Discover. So they could learn from the best, position themselves against their competitors, while just like putting some lights basically into the black box that is Google Discover. So basically, I'm going to invite you to take the metrics, red pill together, and to dive into the reality behind this module. So I'm just going to have like these 5 minutes left together to show you a little bit what that feels like. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to share my other screen so we can demo this live. Okay. So here I'm gonna share that. So you can now see my screen. So I'm directly in Marfeel platform, and you can see I'm currently in the Discover monitoring. So what you see on screen is basically the articles that are getting the most visibility on Google Discover in the United States for the last 2 hours. Okay, so there's lots of information we're gathering here. We're basically looking at, what kind of topics are they associated with, what kind of Google categories they are being referenced. Obviously, the feed of Google Discover is very personalized, so we are grasping this personalization aspect through geolocalization as well. So I can just, for instance, filter on Los Angeles and have visibility on what is getting trendy in Los Angeles. And something I really like to do is just looking at, what has happened, who is the king on Google Discover in the US for the last 30 days. Am I in the top 10? Am I in the top 20? Who is my competition? What are they publishing on? Can I position myself on this? Okay. So here, basically, you can just dive into the post. I can look at the beginning of the day. I can see that it's still very early in the US, but maybe this is a news that is interesting. For instance, the 5th one, I can just click on it, open it, and boom, I have information on what articles is performing. And Marfeel Copilot is also available through Chrome extensions, not only to give you suggestions and insights on your own content when you are working on your CMS, but also on basically what I can see on screen. So that will, as an editor, help me, get some helpfulness evaluation analysis on, hey, why is this article good? Why is it so performing on Google Discover? Can I learn something from it? And apparently this article could be improved. And these are the characteristics of the articles. Here are the tips. So you can position yourself on that particular news, but you can also do a better job. So you can learn lots and lots of things on the ideation. This is where MediaNews Group is actually looking at the different angles. They can look at the stories, the expansions ideas. If I'm going to position myself, I would like to make sure I answer all the questions a user can have while reading this article. And if I am late on this particular news, maybe, I can be the first on the next best follow-up story. So this is a little bit what Marfeel Copilot is also here for, and combining this technology with the monitoring module makes total sense, and it's actually integrated in lots of different workflows from our publishers. So there it is. I think I'm right on time, Cherilyn. I'm gonna stop sharing.
That was fantastic. There are a couple of questions. The one is the Discover feature available for India?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we do monitor on like all over the world. So you can just select like a selection of countries and cities. We, for instance, have publishers that in the US that are not only looking at what's happening in the US, but also what's happening in the UK, what's happening in London or in Paris or in Berlin. And maybe I can, get a sense of things that are getting trendy before the others. So yes, it's available wherever you want in the language that you want. We're just crawling the feed from a geolocalized standpoint.
Okay, good. Another one from Robert Shaw. When you use AI to optimize CTR, do you rely mainly on a predictive model combined with LLMs for headline generation, or do you run a custom design? And
so I would say it's a bit of both. Okay, we have our secret sauce, so we use different LLMs models. Okay, and we do basically prompt engineering, and we inject a lot of data coming from the publisher itself. We don't expand. Everything is sandboxed, and all the headlines that are generated are really taking into consideration a lot of data from a recirculation standpoint on the behavior on the homepage. So it's really top notch.
okay, brilliant. There are a couple more which we'll get to at the end of the discussion. So thank you very much. Next up is Eric van Heerswijk, who's the CEO and co-founder of Smart Docto. Over to you, Eric.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. Let me share a bit of my screen. Let me see, because that needs to happen, obviously. Here we go. Share. I hope you can see my screen, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, we are Smart Docto. We are sort of the mother of actionable analytics. So basically what we see is that we try to solve the gap, and we did it, I think, not between data and insights, but between insights and action. So we have been AI driven from the start, from 10 years ago, and I think we were the first to focus on actionability, notifications, AI, and stuff like that. And that's my sort of main point for today. So basically, here you see the three topics that you could discuss with us, right? So we have the regular analytics, we have action, and of course, we also have the AI. And basically, let me sort of try to click away that point. So basically, we have all the stuff that you need, right? We have insights, we have real time, we have tentacles. Insights is historical analytics, so you can have data and insights and reports from all of your history. So you can make really click reports really easily with a couple of clicks and send it to whomever on a daily or weekly or monthly or even yearly basis. We have all the real-time analytics with flexible dashboards, so you can sort of do the same, do a couple of clicks on the dashboard system and really make your real-time analytics. And that's also, I don't know, all of the metrics are there, page views, conversions, Google Discover traffic, everything is there as well. And we also have a homepage optimization system, which basically says what your teasers need to do, right? So which teasers are working well, which are don't. You can, of course, A/B test all of these headlines, et cetera, and you can see in the colors how you can really improve your homepage or your sub-index pages or stuff like that. So what is also very interesting about all of these features is that you can run them on your own data lake. So if you really want to have one single truth within your newsroom, we are very happy to provide that while with connecting to your data, to your real-time data, to your historical data, and run all of these features on that as well. So here we go with sort of the more actionability stuff, and I always use the paraphrasing, the example of the car. Here you have these sort of the analytics paradigm, right? So basically, you can run in your car, you can do all of it yourself. You're sort of watching the road, see the kilometers glide. And this is sort of the traditional dashboarding algorithm. And we feel that while dashboards and reports are still very useful, the age of only reports, only insights, only dashboards is pretty much over, I would say. You do all the driving, the car gives you some metrics, but you need to do a lot of work, and probably some of it can be sort of solved more readily with smart computers or stuff like that. Then you have the more modern paradigm where the AI takes over everything, right? You have a lot of robotic writing stuff. Some of people see the future as, well, the robots will take everything, will take over everything. And the car does the driving, you don't have anything to do. And the sort of the big disadvantage of this is that the car has no clue about what you're driving to, right? What is your destination? What is your goal in life? And especially in journalism, the audience that you're trying to reach and how you're trying to reach them is very, very important. So what we believe in, again, taking the car into consideration, is the hybrid mode. We really believe in the interaction of human and computers. Basically, we believe in AI-powered decision-making. And decision-making is the crucial word that we think AI and analytics should be sort of conveying, right? So ask not only in your newsroom, do we have metrics? Do we have numbers? Can we show them in the right workflow? Which is, of course, also that's something that we can help with. But also ask yourself, is my newsroom really acting on the numbers that we're giving to you, right? And that's mostly the crucial difference between a successful newsroom and a not so successful newsroom. So how do we do this? So in the car, you have, of course, a driver and you have a dashboard. You're assisted with lane assisting or of course, the Google Maps in your car. And then you take a trip. And of course, you tell the map, the navigation in your car, where you want to go, maybe if it's the shortest route or the least amount of gas or something like that. And then you take the trip and you're being assisted. And we see the same in a newsroom, right? So basically, you have a user, you have metrics, we have the stories, but we also want to take into consideration, what is your goal? Where do you want to go? Do you want more page views? Is your model advertising, or is it also conversions? Do you think that loyalty will steer you into the right direction? So you have all these goals that you can take into the newsroom. And we want the system to be aware of those goals. We want the AI, all of the dashboards, all of the notifications to be aware of where you're going and help you with that. And I think that's the main difference between only dashboarding and insights on the one hand. Also the main difference with letting the LLM do basically everything, because the LLM doesn't have a goal. So taking sort of the middle ground here and letting newsrooms interact with AI when considered in a goal is actually the way to go here. So how does it work? So we have a lot of interesting notifications, like when this happens, you need to do that. And we were doing that for 8 or 9 years already. And we have across hundreds of newsrooms experience in how these notifications actually made things better. Right, so you need to post this on Facebook. This story needs to be longer because the attention time is shortened. Putting this on the homepage will drive more conversions to subscriptions, stuff like that. We have around 300 proprietary algorithms that work on your goal and are very, very specialized in making you go into the next phase. And those notifications can take all kinds of different forms, right? So, like I said, Refer X delivered a lot of traffic for this story. You could see that in the numbers, but we all know in journalism, it's quite hard to be in dashboards all the time. That's the main disadvantage of having lists and metric and stuff like that. We also have notifications about ROI, because not only the content strategy, but also the revenue is, of course, very, very important. There's not enough premium content on your homepage, for example, or we have very interesting algorithms that help you with A/B testing, not only doing different headlines, but also knowing which headlines need to be A/B tested on the homepage, for example. A lot of different stuff revolves around conversion. So this article has a lot of engagement, but conversions are below expectations. We know about, let's say, the thresholds and the correlations between all of these different metrics. Or this is a missed opportunity, for example. Giving it more reach should bring you more conversions. We know all of that. And there's a lot of big publishers that we helped in a very simple way with getting more conversions. And it's actually a system that helps and impacts really, really well. This is, of course, by the way, our new conversion sort of segment in our historical tool. So this will be up this week. We improved it, and you can see all of the funnel of conversions. And of course, it will be adjoined with really, really nice reports and also with notifications. So you can be sure that your conversions will grow if you sort of do let yourself be helped with the AI as well. And then the last part is the part that we are very, very well known for. And that's, of course, the user need model. The user need model 2.0 is used by, let's say, a lot of thousands of publishers across the world. And it's actually the model that we developed together with Dimitri Shishkin from the BBC. And of course, the user needs is all around our system, right? So notifications, the balance of user needs on your homepage is off, for example. The news story is still attracting audiences, but giving it sort of a follow-up with the different user needs. Acquaint yourself with the user need model. You can go to our website, learn everything there is to know about the user need model. And if you're using that, feel free to just contact us, because we can automatically help you with tagging, with reports, with notifications. I'm pretty sure we can make the user need model into a big success, like we do with a lot of publishers. So that was sort of the old, I would say old, but let's say 5 years old is already quite old in analytics. Things go fast. We also have like a helper, a co-pilot, an AI helper that's been there for years. And basically it's like an overlay on your own website. You can do all kinds of different stuff with it. You can optimize headlines, but also paragraphs, for example. And our most spectacular part is where we use the story helper, which basically not only sort of can rewrite stuff, but also help you with applying a different user need to a story, for example. So it will give you not only a summary of the article, but also the recipe to make it into a more emotion-driven article, for example, and to really give you examples of who you should interview or what you should do about, let's say, this article, right? How you can improve it. And it talks in a very realistic, very journalistic way to your newsroom. So this will bring a more narrative aspect to analytics, right? We know that numbers and journalists are often a very difficult combination. That's why analytics and newsrooms is quite hard. But we have devised like a more narrative structure to data. And I think getting more metrics, getting more insights is always nice, but it's not the stuff that brings you more impact and more success in the long run. So this is sort of there, and we use a lot of different LLMs for that. You can use also your proprietary LLM, or sort of if you have some kind of deal with one of the LLMs, we can use that as well. Basically, what we do is we apply all of the analytics that we have, make aggregates out of that, summaries out of that, and use that for the prompts on LLM. And we've worked really, really hard on that for the last year. And I think we are now at the phase where we can do the next spectacular thing, which is called the SmartOcto Oracle. So basically what we asked ourselves is, okay, all of the notifications that we have is very tactical, right? So we can do, if X happens, then you do that. And which is really helpful because we can send those notifications to whomever that is relevant into the newsroom. And basically help that person, right? If the sports section can get their own notifications, if the social team needs to have notifications about Facebook or Google Discover or something like that, we can do that, right? So everybody has this own tactical robot, so to say. But we were asking ourselves for a long time, and now the technology is there, so we can really give a real swoon to it. Can our system also solve more strategic questions? So basically, if we apply and put all of the data, all of the notifications, all of the reports, all of the dashboards into one big bucket, and we apply our trained LLMs to that and really have a very mature conversation around decision making, what would that look like? And I'm very proud to sort of show you a couple of examples of how this system functions. I cannot show you the UX right now, but feel free to just come to us and sign up as a pilot partner, because we are doing that with Reach. We're doing that with all kinds of big publishers. And this is sort of how it works. So again, it's more question driven. So in this case, which user need type retains readers better this week compared to with the previous week? You're not being outputted a list. You're being outputted an analysis of an AI system that really sort of mimics a data analyst in your newsroom, right? So this week, fact-driven content shows the only improvement in the reader intention with a 20% higher returning visitor share, et cetera, right? So it sort of goes through all of the elements of a question that you have. And basically it gives you at the end a very, very precise advice for this specific week in this case. So it's not only if X happens, do Y. It really gives a very detailed analysis of what you need to do, in this case about user needs. But we also do that, for example, on the balance on the homepage, right? So how is the balance of user needs and sections on the homepage? We can, of course, A/B test. We can do all kinds of different things with teasers. But the real interesting question is also, how is my homepage balanced, right? Is it sort of really giving the audience a fair view of what's happening in the world, how these articles are structured, et cetera, We can give a visual view of that, but we can also apply AI to that and deliver these kinds of very specific analyst advices. So in this case, this week, the balance of sections is very well balanced. So it gives you a compliment, which is really nice. But it also says that user needs is off, and it should be 20% more inspiring me articles on the homepage in order to get to the ultimate balance of your user needs strategy, which we calculated, and we can help you with that as well. So maybe sort of a last example, which topics sort of garnered the highest number of conversions. So it's not asking the question, how do my articles do? Or how do my articles of competitors do? It's asking the question, so what do I need to write about from my audience perspective, right? And it gives you concrete examples. You should do more of this. You should do less of this. If we follow your strategy, this is sort of the way it should go, right? And we can also compare it to what we see in Google Discover. Marfeel showed you how the sort of the Google Discover metrics work. We have that as well. You can just compare what you're doing with Google Discover on a very, very strategic, tactical basis. And I think, well, in this case, you should do more on Showbiz. So basically, we help you making a sort of data into impact, making sense of what you're seeing. And that's, of course, the difficult part within any newsroom, right? So data is nice, technology is nice, but in the end, we all know that. I think you can sort of see in your own newsroom the culture of data improved actions and making sure that dashboards and reports are really being used in the right way is actually the most challenging part. We do that via our own system. We have our own consultancy branch. We do that with FT Strategies. As a lot of people know, we have a lot of projects with FT Strategies around these topics as well, with digital first, with user needs and stuff like that. So we're really coming in as a sort of a helper and making your newsroom work better. And I think that's my main takeaway of analytics on where it should go next. It's not only about data and numbers. It's about making sure that you're going into the right direction with the right amount of speed. Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you, Eric. We'll come back to some more detailed questions later. There is just one as we transition. From an ROI perspective, is your user needs model mainly a guardrail against clickbait-driven CTR, or do you see it equally split with engagement and conversion metrics?
No, there's a lot of reports on our website. You can go to our blog. There's the growth hack report. There's the original user needs report. We see all of the metrics basically going up, right? So if you use the right amount of user needs, we see engagement going up, we see views going up, we see conversions going up. Obviously, in our system, those are different strategies, so we can set it up the way you want it. But user needs helps with everything, and we proved, I think it was 2 months ago, we delivered a report on if articles need to reflect one different user need and how that sort of impacts a newsroom. We sufficiently proved that if you follow the user need strategy, well, pretty sort of focused, impact will follow. And those reports are on our website. You can download them and see the proof yourself.
We'll come back to you at the end of the discussion. Next up, I'm very pleased to introduce Tajay Gilbrandt. He's the CEO and co-founder of Kilkaya. Over to you, Tajay, to tell us a little bit about the group and what you're busy with at the moment.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'm happy to be here and share this with you today. And just checking that you can see my screen and it works nice.
Good.
Yeah, perfect. Today I'll talk a bit about data analytics in the newsroom, obviously. And first, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we do in Kilkaya. We have many products, but they all kind of are connected together. But for us, analytics is the foundation. This is where everything starts, and that's why it's very important that we build a data model that fits each and every publisher, and it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And once that foundation is in place, we can set dashboards, reporting that really matter for the newsroom. And on top of this, we can also build customer data platform, which makes it possible to segment audiences, model sources, score, and activate readers in smarter ways. And all of this comes together in the personalization part, which I'm going to spend the main time on today, where the insights from analytics and the structure we have from the CDP are used to make the user experience better, both on the front page and individual articles with recommendations. As I said, today we'll focus on analytics and personalization mainly. So we have kind of a slogan in Kilkaya: align, adapt, achieve. And the first step is always to align. And with align, we mean that you need to align your analytics with your editorial goals. And if your mission is not clear, this is where you actually need to start. And then you can decide what success looks like for you. Which KPIs do you need to measure your success? And if you succeed, that needs to follow. And with everything in place, then we can build the right data model and set up the dashboards, and everything will make sense. I think the point here is that the analytics tool should adapt to the publishers and not the other way around. And the next phase is the adapt. And this is where the newsroom adjusts. Maybe they need to write different stories than they do today. Maybe they need to be more diverse on user needs. Maybe they should do more live coverage, or maybe they should just write and focus more on young readers. The important thing is that now we have a clear line from the management to the newsroom. There's a clear red line where everyone follow the same mission, and instead of just following a default dashboard made by an outside company. And then you can achieve when you have this in place. And I'm going to show you some results and some examples of this in the next few slides. The first one is from Amedia, a big Norwegian company. They tried for many years to attract more young readers because all their main part of the readers were like 80 years and above. And you know what happened to old people? They stop being subscribers because they die. So they need to reach the young people. And they tried many different approaches, but it didn't work until they actually removed all the data for the people over 40 and only looked at data for the people under 40. And then everything changed, because to get green numbers in Kilkaya, the newsroom needed to focus on the younger audience and make them happy. So it changed the way they were writing stories, which type of stories they were writing. And as a result, they had a huge increase in young subscribers. Our next example is from Sweden. It's NTM Media. They actually copied many of the things Amedia did with the young readers. But on top of this, they put a layer of user needs. So they could also see which user needs are working best with a young audience. And they have many dashboards for this, both for journalists and the live dashboards. And here's an example of a dashboard where they can look at article views per user need for the young audience only. So this is another example. My third example is from Switzerland, and it's 20 Minuten, 20 minutes. They wanted to increase the female readership. It was like 30%, 40% in the beginning. And we wanted to create a tool for them that made it possible to, at least in theory, reach 50% female readership. And we have this widget we call the tiles widget. And in the tiles widget, you can see all the tiles represent a story on the front page. And the color represents the gender. So if it's pink, it's more female readers. If it's blue, it's mainly male readers. And if it's purple, it's a mix. The height of the tile represents how much traffic it gets. So with this tool, it's easier for them to prioritize some of the more pink stories further up on the homepage if they need to increase the female readership and reach a 50%. So these are 3 examples on how you can use analytics built to fit your needs and the things you want to achieve, and then build totally customized dashboards to achieve this. Now I'm going to switch focus. And I think the biggest challenge we have in today's media industry is kind of all the referrals are going away. I mean, Facebook, they reduced the visibility a long time ago. It's now down by more than 80%. And surely AI will replace much of the search traffic we're getting. And recently, Google Discover announced that they will have AI-generated summaries in the Discover previews, which also probably will impact the traffic we're getting from Google Discover. And this is just the top of the iceberg. I'm sure there will come new sources of traffic, but it's all coming and going. And I think there's a tool called the Discover Snoop, which specializes in Google Discover traffic. And even them, they're saying that they don't offer an annual plan because they don't know where Discover is even the next few months. So this tells me everything I need to know on what I need to focus on. And in our opinion, there's only one solution if you want to survive as a publisher in today's market. And that's by building your own audience. You have to make people come directly to you, either the homepage, if it's the app, if it's through the newsletter, or whatever it is. You need to build an audience. I mean, if you're betting on Google Discover for sustainable growth, it's like peeing your pants to stay warm. I don't recommend it. Not that I haven't tried it, but I don't recommend it anyway. So the direct traffic is where you should go. And luckily, we're working with many of the best publishers on this in the world. In the Nordics, we have many publishers as high as 80 to 90% direct traffic. And when I tell these numbers around the world, people just look at the Nordics as unicorn markets. And I think it's a bit unfair because these results are built. It's not like magic. It's based on long-term decisions that supports reader habits, subscriptions, and also very important, frequently updated and often personalized front pages, where we also see the highest CTRs in the world. So the front pages are making people come back again and again. That's a main thing. And you want to create a habit. Many of you have probably read James Clear's best-selling book, Atomic Habits. And I love this chart here where he explains the dopamine spike and how habits form. In the first example in A, this is what happens first time you go to a homepage, you find an article and you click on it, and then you get the dopamine when you get your reward. But when you've done it a few times, you will start to feel that craving even before you come to the front page. And you will get the dopamine even before you come there. And this is where it's really important that when you actually come to this homepage, that you don't get disappointed, that there's actually something new, something interesting you can click on. If not, you will get a penalty and the dopamine will drop. And this will probably result in the habit may stop altogether. So it's extremely important that you deliver on this promise to always have something fresh on the homepage. However, social media already solved this. They have always something new. It's personalized. It's a reward, a dopamine kick every time. And surely we're all addicted. However, there are some pitfalls. Obviously, the black box, you have no clue how that algorithm works. And if it's difficult to understand the algorithm, it just makes you feel stupid. So that doesn't work. And also, it's an echo chamber, and you get this filter bubble, and that doesn't work either. And also, when it comes to news, we see that breaking always wins. Even if we have the perfectly tailored recommendation, which is exactly to what you like to read, if you have a breaking story, it will beat that recommendation. So these two things, the black box problem and the echo chamber problem, that needs to be solved because personalization needs to start on the top of the homepage. And the reason is that 80% of the traffic is coming in the first 4 rows. That's an average we see between many publishers. And many publishers say they do personalization, but in fact, they only do a couple of positions and maybe from row 10 and downwards or something like that. And that's not really cutting it because if you want to have a huge impact of the personalization, you need to start from the very first row. However, this requires a leap of faith because the top of the page is really important and you need to have control and you need to control what goes there and what shouldn't go there. So we have built this tool where you first create your algorithm. And I spoke that earlier that you feel stupid if you don't understand it. It won't make you feel smart. So you can choose every KPI you want. You can combine different rules in all different ways. You can also have a different mix of sections, a mix of user needs, so you get the front page mix you want. And editors can understand and refine how the decisions shapes the outcome, and you can immediately see the result. So you can understand how it works. If you do this, this happens, and you can see it. But even if you have this perfect algorithm, it needs to be controlled. But sometimes it's you need to override it. And to override this, we created the front studio. And in the front studio, this is in the middle here. This is where you see a kind of the result of this previous algorithm. So what you created here, this is what you will see in the middle. On the right side, you see a preview. You can choose between a mobile and desktop preview. And on the left side, you can have other articles. If you want to drag an article that's not in the algorithm yet, for instance, the last published, or it could be best articles from yesterday, or the best performing article, or whatever, just drag it in, and it will immediately be there. You can also click on any of these stories, and a panel will open, so you can change the image, the headline, you can change the skin, or you can pin an article. You can pin it so it's fixed and it will always be in this position, or it could be adaptive, so it can move a few places up or down, or it could be loose, so it will start out in this position, but if you have read this article or seen it several times without clicking, the algorithm will just take over. And the results from this tool is just amazing. I'll show you 3 examples very quickly. This is from Hamburger Morgenpost, Mopo. They did this first test on a section page, a football team, HSV. And on this page, we had a 39% increase in CTR, a 30% increase in page views per session, but also quite interestingly, a 58% reduction in navigation rates because people found something interesting immediately. And it looks like in this slide that the traffic is going slightly down, but I've taken out the last 200 days for you here today, so you can see that it's actually been sustained. And actually, it's slowly even growing because people learn and they create habits that if they come here, they will always find something interesting. Another example is Finansavisen, a Norwegian publisher. They created one front page for subscribers and one for non-subscribers. the one for non-subscribers, they removed many of the plus articles. So kind of like the dynamic paywall, but more dynamic recommendations. So they get much more traffic because they have more open articles. But the plus articles they have now is the more high converting articles. So they get more conversions and more traffic. Last example is a small Norwegian newspaper, which is basically a one-man show. And it shows that the algorithm never sleeps because usually in the previous time, every weekend the CTR dropped. But when he got Front Studio and an algorithm, he continued to have high CTRs also when he was not working. So a very quick overview of how this is working. If there's a fresh front page, everything's fresh. If you come back 5 minutes later, you've read everything, you will bounce. With personalization, you can keep the first story pinned because that's really important. You can remove story 2, story 3 can go down, and story 4 and 5 can make it into the screen so we see it. If you come back after 8 hours, it will be only new articles. But you can also in here do better because 7 hours ago, we published this high impact story. And this can now be placed instead of story 2, which is not that important. So we get more value for this story that you spend a lot of time with. You can also put here a high propensity article, which is a high propensity to subscribe. And then you can give this article to this user. The last thing I wanted to show you now is that we don't see many publishers do this today. One example is actually the New York Times. They do many of the things we're doing, not all the same things, but many of them. So I recommend you reading this article. And these are some of the publishers we work with, all the big ones in the Nordics and many publishers in Germany and across Europe. And we're happy to take on more. And last thing, please follow us on LinkedIn and join the conversation and challenge us. That's all for today.
Super. Thanks, Tarja. There is one question regarding cookies and insights from unknown users.
Mm-hmm.
Can you generate insights for unknown readers based on cookies alone if it's a free publication?
Yeah, if we have the cookie, then we will have that information stored in the cookie. So it doesn't have to be a subscriber. But if there's no cookie, then there's no information, obviously. Then it's like a flyby user.
Okay.
What we see on average that if you look at like the last 30 days, we have 70% of the users with 30 days plus history. So in the cookies. So it's quite stable, actually, the first party cookie. We can also set up our script with the customer's CDN. So it's from the customer's own domain. So the script and everything will be first party. Okay, brilliant. On that note, we're going to open to questions. If you could all put your mics on. Just as a starting question, perhaps, Eric, there's one here that relates to the user needs model. Which user need scores more in engagement metrics?
Yeah, the $1 million question, right? So basically, the user need model was devised because people in newsrooms make too much update me stories, right? So they're much too focused on the direct hard news. And we sort of concluded after a lot of research that having a more balanced user need model is the way forward, right? So it's not about, okay, do this and then everything will be great. Every publisher is different, every newsroom is different, and every audience is different. So there's no publisher that has the same sort of user need model balance, so to say. What I do want to say is the main invention that we had a couple of years ago is that we added the help axis, right? So basically service journalism, what to do next, how to sort of park when there's a concert, stuff like that is really, really undervalued. And I think that putting that more in the mix and putting a bit more personal stories in the mix are actually the way forward for most. But it depends on your business model, on advertising versus conversions and stuff like that. But yeah, we do calculate for a lot of publishers what we call in the baseline reports the ultimate user need balance for these publishers, and then you can go forward. But the help the help one is mostly the most undervalued.
Right. Does that differ geographically, the sort of average?
No, I think we see more difference between different publishers than between different regions, for example, which is also something that surprised me as well. But yeah, people are people, right? They just want to know sort of similar stuff. It depends more on the tone of voice of a publisher or where you are in the political spectrum or what's your revenue model than anything else.
Okay, good. You all mentioned that the to get to action really depends on the team on the other end and the degree of which the newsroom or data team is acting on your intelligence that you're giving them. Vincent, do you have an idea of what an ideal data engagement or growth team looks like in a newsroom? And for a publisher, maybe what do they need? And do you split live reactions or considered actions after the time?
So, I mean, it's complicated because there's lots of different publishers' profile. Okay, what I can tell you, and I usually don't disclose that much, but we actually have a Marfeel on Marfeel. So we are able to be very proactive when we see that there's not enough engagement with our tool. But what we observe is that Marfeel is open all day long on large screens, usually. We see hundreds of users connected on the same organization, and we see how they use it, okay? A typical signal is when there's for instance, when there's a breach, can happen on a country, for instance, where a big server is going down. We have, for instance, a very large penetration in Latin America or in Spain, and we are able to, you know, be kind of the first one to know when there's a breach at a country level because the data is going down and they're all like, hey, what is going on? Meaning that they are always connected. And this is a level of engagement from our customers that we have. So for us, it's very easy to see that, yeah, the data is here. They're like all the time reading the insights, reading the data, taking the actions. And if it's not the case, we can identify it very easily.
Okay, Tajay, a question for you around data integrity. A lot of people have reported that AI bots are skewing open rates on newsletters, things like that, where they're caching pictures and creating havoc with the way people had traditionally read their metrics. How do you deal with that?
With newsletters or
newsletters or bot activity online?
I mean, newsletters is not really our product, so that's. But when it comes to when we deliver content, for instance, when we deliver a whole homepage, then it's important. And this is why we prefer to have a customer's CDN setup. So they use their own domain to deliver everything we deliver. So it's basically the customer's own delivery system and not a third-party domain that could be blocked. So to us, this is really not a problem. But if the publisher uses a third-party newsletter system, I cannot speak for that.
Okay, good. Eric, we're going back to the needs. Do you differentiate between user needs for commercial and public interest media?
Very interesting. Yeah, as some of you may know, I came from public media originally, although I also worked in commercial ones. So you can see, yeah, I think the community part is a bit bigger in public media, right? So in the help me part and the feel user needs, you have like articles that really revolve around making a group of people work around the same cause and stuff like that. So you can see more of user need leaning articles in that segment. And of course, maybe for the commercial ones that have news wires and press agencies and stuff like that, they tend to sort of over deliver way too much on the update me stories. While that's still very important to have like a buffet, I always call it like a journalistic buffet of topics and stories. So those are the main differences. I think that let's say the feel/do component within public media is a bit bigger than it is on commercial. But as I said before, it really depends on where you are, who you are, and where you want to go. And I think the user need model is a pretty sort of 360 approach to almost all newsrooms, and even non-media related. We are doing user need stuff on insurance companies and on sports media and stuff like that. And we're having great success with other, let's say, verticals as well.
Okay, thank you. Tajay, I've got perhaps a more appropriate question for you. It's the last question we're going to take, because I'm happy to say that Justin Stile is online and will be able to do a small presentation for us. So, Tajay, regarding your front page studio, where or how does the system sit from a technical perspective between a site and a CMS? It looks like the system makes decisions on content and design, does it? Just wondering where it lives in the tech stack.
Yeah, I mean, we can render the whole homepage, or not the header and footer, but the integration is basically just a little HTML tag, and then we can render whatever in there with JavaScript. Again, with the customer's own domain, and we set up the design and everything for the customer. And with this, we always also get immediately when an article is published or updated, the publisher can then from the CMS just send an API call to our system, so we have it immediately ready. And if something happens, you can drag an image directly from your desktop to the CDN solution we have. So it's very quick, often quicker than your normal CMS. And you can combine it. You can have some rows with our system, and then you can have some rows with the CMS, and you can take it gradually. So there's many options here. The main point is that you can create your mix and your look and feel and everything, and it could be individualized. So for instance, if you have user needs, I mean, Update Me, I totally agree with Eric that Update Me stories, there's too many of them in the mix. And but there's no publisher mix, in my opinion. There's personal mixes. So if you're a user that comes back every 5 minutes, you need lots of Update Me stories. The main problem with Update Me is that they tend to push down the other really good stories on the homepage, so we don't see them because of all these Update Me stories. So with personalization, you can make sure that you only have a few Update Me stories and keep all the other user needs in the mix on the homepage. And you can also then have, if you have a user that resonates especially good with Help Me or Connect Me or whatever, you can have slightly more of that in the mix for that user. So you can have a personal mix, not just that's created with AI and personalization, and not just a publisher mix. The publisher mix will be the default for the flyby user. So you can play with this and have as much as you, or as little as you like.
Okay, before I introduce Justin, there's some questions around whether your presentations will be available to people. If you're happy to share, just let us know and we'll make the slideshows available.
Sure.
So,
I mean, we're in sales, so of course.
good. Right, really happy that Justin has joined us. Justin Stile is a consultant and principal owner at Coda Analytics. He spent 9 years at the New York Times, and his expertise is in designing measurement frameworks that align business goals, editorial mission, and product vision. Thank you, Justin.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can, Justin. Go ahead.
Oh, wonderful. And I don't have the option to share my presentation, so perhaps if somebody just wants to open it up, one of the presenters, and share it, that would be great. Or sorry, one of the hosts, if that's possible, or give me the option to share.
We'll see if we can do that. Hold on 1 second.
Okay, wonderful. And while we're doing that, I sort of just want to, in the brief time here, and apologies for some of the issues in terms of joining on time, but I'm really passionate about analytics, specifically analytics in the publishing industry. I've spent a lot of time, working on this. Okay, join this.
Yeah, I just invited you, Justin. Can you now share your screen?
Starting at the New York Times all the way through to my current consultancy, where I've got to work with, I'm requesting to share some of the other major publishers here in the United States, including the Washington Post, other Condé Nast, and even streaming services like Netflix. And one of the major things that I've seen in pretty much all of these companies and the challenges of integrating analytics in terms of into an editorial process, specifically a newsroom, it really starts from the top, and the alignment of what these metrics actually mean, and why the different organizations are tracking them, right? What is their strategy, and how do the metrics that sort of outline the success of that strategy relates to the actions they're doing? Here we go. Here's just a brief thing. So I'll just take everybody through a quick 5-minute version of this presentation, and I'm happy to, anyone wants to reach out offline, I'm happy to present this to their organization if they're interested. But again, this is sort of a higher level look. Some of the key takeaways here, right? So what I noticed leading both product analytics and newsroom analytics at the New York Times is there's definitely very different competing priorities between the two different working groups. So you'll have product professionals, technologists that are very interested in creating great products, growing audience, deepening engagement, where you'll have journalists that are really cared about making impactful and great stories. What I noticed is these teams work in silos. At first at the New York Times, this was by design. There's a very much of a separation of sort of church and state between the newsroom and the product team, so that newsroom could kind of go about their business and not be influenced or directed by metrics. But as the New York Times sort of started moving into the later part of the 2010s, it's like 2017, 2018, there's a realization that, we can't keep that separation. We actually have to join them. And one of the key things that we did was actually to create a very purposeful newsroom policy around how analytics is used. So here's sort of an example. So as we were looking to launch analytics in the newsroom, we wanted to be very clear on what that meant for editorial judgment, and then what that meant for specific editors making decisions with the data. This is an example here of some of the policy points, but one of the key things that we established was, we don't want to be a data-driven company. Whenever I hear that, I always picture like somebody leading a dog sled and mushing some dogs and whipping them along, but rather data informed, right? So we didn't want to set very specific targets. We really want to just focus on integrating metrics into our practices to really inform editors on, some of the deeper questions that they have. We would focus on longer term trends. We didn't really focus on the individual story, though we always had metrics at the individual story level. So that's very important. But the bigger question was in terms of like the long-term success. And so sort of going back to this, some of the key takeaways here is we basically defined a framework that focused on one single metric that then all initiatives were aligned to. At the New York Times, we found through data science exercises and just common sense that active days, so the number of days a reader visited the site in the last, say, 7 days, was the single most important metric in terms of predicting subscription. Ultimately, our goal was to drive subscribers, but we saw that the number of times they're able to read is actually a key leading indicator of somebody who will subscribe, and if you are subscribed, will remain subscribed. So we use that as sort of a guiding light. We called it our North Star metric. And we basically then paired product folks and product folks and newsroom folks together to create initiatives to actually try to drive that metric. And then why this matters really is that, we sort of took away a lot of the friction that was caused by just people chasing different metrics and evaluating what's important, what's more important. We took away sort of some of the friction between both product and newsroom by combining them and making it a shared goal. We really then started to focus around the reader and their habits, and what that meant for the success of the company. So more specifically, how the metrics that we did, which really underline the quality of the journalism that we do, leads to, sort of these deeper reader habits, and drives subscriptions. So that's a quick, a real quick overview of this presentation. But I mean, the one thing I really just wanted to really underline is until we had this purposeful strategy, until we had this purposeful merging of product, business, and newsroom together to drive the metrics to make the company successful, we were just chasing metrics all over the place. And things didn't really turn around for us until we actually combined the two different functions. And as a part of this combination, we completely changed the way we work together. So it was no longer two different teams trying to drive separate metrics and not meeting in the middle. It was teams coming together, both from different disciplines, and really working together to drive the common metrics, establishing a framework that exists such that if the initiative that you do isn't working, you can actually quickly pivot to some other initiative and really focus on what's actually driving the needle, as opposed to just trying to chase metrics by employing best practices across a wide array of strategies. And that's where I'll leave it for this. But again, happy to go deeper with anybody who would like a follow-up.
Super, thanks very much. Just a question at the Times. Where does, let me just get my video on. Where does the responsibility sit for a joint team? Is it the editor or is it the publisher?
I mean, it starts all the way at the publisher level. So from the CEO and the executive editor to then the managing editor and the different product and technical leads throughout the organization, there really was this pairing together, such that when you got to the team level, it was very clear that you were working together, and it was no longer this, newsroom and product competing priorities. So it was a very intentional reset of the way that the organization was set up, and then aligned to focus on metrics, and really empower the teams to do what they thought was needed to drive those metrics, and give them then the measurement framework to be able to recalibrate and iterate towards other initiatives.
And I'm not sure if, I'm sure it's advanced since I last went to a meeting at the New York Times, but in the morning meeting, there would be a report back of various metrics and that. Has that shifted to a more live kind of response, or is it reflective a day later?
So it's that would be the part of, like, in terms of like the initiatives that then every morning we would do a briefing for the editors just on what success was, what happened the prior day, also focus on things that are trending, really just sort of informing the editors of like what is happening, much less prescriptive, and just far more cluing them in on the daily numbers. What was really pivotal is then we would have these monthly meetings with the masthead, where we would really then take the progress we made towards the data and the metrics we defined beforehand, and really highlighted the progress towards driving those metrics, and then highlighting any specific insights, different analyses we did to really uncover deeper questions that the editorial board had. So it's far more monthly check-ins for high-level strategy, sort of are we aligned? And then again, one of the initiatives was to inform the editors daily of what's been happening on the website, such that they don't have to necessarily always have their head in a chart beat or a analytics dashboard to be informed.
Cool. I think one last question, because we're about on time to close. There's a question about whether all the data that you have is able to be predictive, and that's open to anyone. Can you use the data you're collecting to be predict future trends for the newsrooms? Anybody?
I mean, specifically at the Times, yes. I mean, and part of what our strategies defined, and by moving to a framework, that is basically the origins of our get everybody to register to read more articles, so that we actually know who they are, what they're reading, and what they're doing. And then using that data to see, hence active days, what is actually most predictive of subscription and what is most predictive of retention. And then using those measures and metrics to really understand the health of our audience at any given time.
Cool. Anybody else want to pick up on that?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of interesting patterns if you really look closely at the data, right? And you can use any system for that, but following these patterns, really taking them seriously. And at the same time, of course, we understand. I was a journalist for a long time. You also have like the journalistic intuition and what you want to publish about, but really following these patterns, act on it, take it seriously, put it in your workflow. That would really make a difference. And the patterns are already there. You don't have to be a Sherlock Holmes to sort of really notice them once you start analyzing the real stuff. For example, a lot of people are doing a lot of work around the stories that work. We also see that it helps a lot if you analyze which stories don't work and actually try to cut down on them or change them, and thus save time, save space on the website, and put that energy into patterns, user needs, topics that really do work. So yeah, you can follow it, and it's pretty easy once you see the fingerprint.
Good. I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you all for participation, and to the panel for giving your time and your insights into your products. I see most of you put your contact details in the chat. We will share presentations and hopefully see you soon at the next WAN-IFRA event. Thank you very much. Good.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye all.